What's up, everyone? Welcome to episode 25 of the Before the Score podcast. We're 1/4 of the way to 100. We're online again. I think this is our 10th episode online. Sports are still not officially back. NASCAR's back, UFC's back, WWE never left. But the NHL is the first of the four major sports that looks like they'll be playing games. They agreed to a 24-team playoff. We're going to start with hockey today because I don't think we've ever started with hockey in 25 episodes. So, Andrew Morgan, tell me, do you like this 24-team playoff idea?
I'll tell you what, I think I've mentioned it on this podcast before. We never let off with this, but I love the 24-team playoff, especially for hockey. This is the one sport where it's going to be way more competitive than any other sport. With hockey, I think most people who know anything about the sport knows that the Stanley Cup playoffs are one of the most unpredictable playoffs in all of sports, no matter what sport you're talking about. So, I mean, this is going to work for NHL. I think it's perfect. I think this, if you ever wanted to expand the NHL playoffs, this is the perfect time to see how crazy it can actually get. Let's just see things get crazy. Let's see a 12 seed win. In the NBA, that's not going to happen. I'm sorry, Knicks fans, it's not going to happen. But realistically, a 12 or an 11 seed, they can win an NHL playoff game. They can win a series.
Yeah, it's going to be pretty interesting to see. We saw the proposed plan. We saw Bettman on SportsCenter, and he was talking about there's 10 different cities that it could take place in. You got 3 Canadian cities. So it's going to be interesting to see what they officially go with, because you got to see the COVID numbers. You got to see what places can hold the certain, so there's a lot of things still need to happen before we see some NHL games, but I'm glad with the 24 team idea. I think that's a great idea. You have a lot of teams that are on the cusp that are definitely playoff caliber teams that if they have to cut out the regular season, they definitely deserve a shot at the playoffs. So, I mean, we'll see when this timeline gets going, but right now they're on the right course, and I like what the NHL is doing.
Well, I agree. I'm not sure if I love it or hate it. I mean, regardless, I'm not saying that I've really watched too much hockey, in the span of my lifetime. But the one thing I do like about the National Hockey League is that they are going forward. They are trying to do something different. And instead of waiting around and seeing what every other sport does, they're taking initiative and actually doing something about it. So I love what they are doing here. And, if it has to be a 24-team playoff, so be it. The fact is that we are going to be seeing hockey. We're going to be seeing some type of live sporting event on our TV screens very shortly.
I also love this idea. 24 teams in the playoffs. If we're going to get weird, let's get weird. Nothing is normal in the world right now. Why should we have a normal playoff system? That's the thing about the NBA that I don't like. They think they want to go back to a regular season, or they're going to go back to a 16-team playoff and just cut those teams out. I don't think that's fair, and I don't think that's the way it should be. I love the way the NHL is taking the route less traveled by and going with this 24-team playoff. And I do think that the NBA should do this as well, even though they might get some stinkers in the playoffs as opposed to the NHL. But the NHL still got the Canadians in the playoffs. And let's be honest, the Canadians do not deserve to be there. I do feel for teams that were really streaky and hot going into this postseason that would, if it would have been a regular season, like the Philadelphia Flyers or the Washington Capitals or the Boston Bruins. And I do like what they're planning. I think this was a lost point that the NHL made, is that how the top 4 teams, they're getting a bye week or a bye, whatever, how long it's going to be, but they have to, they're thinking about having them play each other to determine their seeds. So I think that's a really cool thing that people are overlooking with this playoff system.
But how competitive do you get in those games, over seeding? I know, there's no home field advantage here, what's the difference? Yeah, you're going to play a worse team as the 1 seed, but that team already played a very competitive series with another team, and they're hot and everything's going. So at that point, I don't see what's the point of even playing. I guess it warms you up, but I mean, you should just be playing scrimmage games at that point behind the ice.
Well, the point of playing for seeding is kind of while the rest of the teams are playing for their lives, they're playing to stay in the playoffs. The 4 teams that have the bye, they can't just jump right in. Their first game back is against a team that's played a whole series. They need to get something in. This is kind of has the competitive nature of a regular season game, because you're not going to get eliminated if you lose, but 1, you really want that seed, and 2, you got to get your game right. You got to get your game right, because you catch a 6 or an 8 seed, like that's coming off a good series and they're hot and they play you in your first actual like elimination series, like you're gonna get your ass kicked if you don't have that one series for seeding to warm you up.
No, I get that, but it's more of an exhibition game. Like you're trying to warm up and, get into the flow of everything. What's the point of televising that? Like, I don't care about teams that aren't going to be trying full. Like, you got to think about injury. I mean, I know it's just one series and everything, but like the level of competition isn't going to be nearly as fierce as these other games. Like, I'd rather watch them than just these guys going over seeding.
Well, let's take the Eastern Conference playoffs, for example. Say you're a team like the Boston Bruins and you play these exhibition games for seeding. You win the President's Trophy and you go into the playoffs as the 4 seed. If that happens, the Rangers are the 11 seed and the Canadiens are the 12 seed. If they both win, I mean, what team are you going to rather play? The team that was probably going to the lottery last year. If God for somehow the Canadiens win a playoff series, I don't remember who they're facing, but there's no way this team should be in the playoffs. But if they win, that's your choice to get an easy first-round matchup against the Canadiens. That's your tune-up matchup. So you're playing for hypotheticals, but at the same time.
Guys, I would actually say that I agree with everybody. I agree with Dan saying that, why are these two playoff teams, high ranked? Why are they playing each other when at the end of the day, they're both in the playoffs and it doesn't really matter if they win or lose because they're still going to be in the playoffs. I understand from that perspective. From Andrew's perspective, I completely agree that this is kind of like a tune-up game, and it doesn't matter how good of a team you are. If you haven't played and then you're just going to go ahead and play regardless of how bad the team is, you're just going to go ahead and play them without having any type of game, you're going to get washed. So it doesn't matter. And then I do agree with what Steve has to say with, like, you want to play the worst possible team, right? So if you're the 1 seed, or I'm just throwing out hypotheticals, you want to play the number 28 seed or whatever. You want to play the lowest seed because they're going to be a bad team. And not only are they going to be a bad team, they're going to be a bad team with limited amount of training. You have the highest advantage that you would ever have. And you would have just been playing with one of the best teams in the whole entire sport. So this is something I actually agree with all three of you guys. And I think it's very important. It doesn't matter. Obviously, there's no home field advantage, doing what they're doing here. But to be able to play the weaker team is always an upside.
Yeah, but you look at the Bruins, they're 8 points ahead of the next best team in the Eastern Conference. Why should they be playing for their 1 seed? I just don't get that.
They didn't lock up the 1 seed in the regular season. There's still plenty of games left where they could have just, got cold and lost that 1 seed.
I don't know. They were riding hot. I don't believe that. I don't know. It's hypotheticals,
But then doesn't give the 2 and 3 seeds, like the Lightning or someone like that, or the Capitals, like a fair shot at the number 1 seed when they could have easily, like not easily, but there was a chance they still could make that last season surge and get that 1 seed.
I don't know. Whatever.
Well,
if you're going to expand it that way, if you're not going to lock in seeding for other people, I don't know.
Let's not talk about hypotheticals anymore. Let's talk about what's set in stone, and what's set in stone is these matchups. I want to know, what first round matchup are you looking forward to the most?
Gotta pull them up.
Yeah, I didn't really look at the matchups.
I'll go first here, and I'm going to tell you what obviously is the first round matchup I'm looking forward to the most, and that's my New York Rangers, the 11 seed, going up against the 6 seed Carolina Hurricanes. And the Hurricanes, those bunch of jerks, are a team that the Rangers have owned this year. They're 4-1 against them, I believe. Igor Shesterkin beat them 5-2. Henrik Lundqvist allowed 1 goal in 3 games against the Hurricanes. The Rangers have owned the Hurricanes this year. I could not be more happy with this matchup that the Rangers got. They got lucky having the Hurricanes in the first round. And if they do beat the Hurricanes, they get the Washington Capitals, who we've owned for the last couple of years in the playoffs. So if we can get the Capitals and the Hurricanes, we can go on a little run here. And
I think you're underselling these opponents, man. Like the Rangers, they were hot at the right time. Nothing right now. That means any late season surge going on.
No momentum at all.
So they're still an 11 seed. The Canes are a much more talented team than the Rangers. I'm sorry.
Oh man,
they are a better team. They should win that series. The Rangers have such a fair shot, but you're making it sound like a gimme. The Rangers, we're gonna play the Capitals. We're nice against the Capitals. You're not. There's a good chance you don't even face the Capitals.
Let me tell you something. The Rangers have the best goalie out of the 2 teams. They have the best first line. They have the 2 best players in this
They're the
series.
worst defense in the playoffs.
Okay, defense. You're right.
That's arguably that's the second biggest part of a playoff series.
Hey, we just got to score goals, and Igor is going to have 50 saves a game at this rate.
So you're banking on a young offense and a goalie who's never started a playoff game.
It's not a young offense. It's
Penciling in
Artemi
a series
Panarin. Artemi Panarin was with the Blue Jackets last year. They swept
but as
the
a
1
whole,
seed.
that Rangers offense is not experienced. They have
Chris
no
Kreider.
playoff
Chris
experience.
Kreider has been to the Stanley Cup. Mika Zibanejad, he's had some playoff losses under his belt, but he has some experience, and he's been the hottest player on the team. Panarin, I think if the season finished, Panarin could have won the Hart Trophy because he was playing that high of a level for this team.
I think Kucherov would have won it. But
So I think the Rangers have a good shot. I will be betting on the Rangers to beat the Hurricanes. The Capitals, you're right. The Capitals, I maybe get a little ahead of myself.
You bet on the Rangers to win. It just means
What
better
happened?
odds for you.
I'm going to bet on the Rangers to beat the Hurricanes. That is easy money, and I hope my listeners.
You might have to put a before the score wager on this.
Well, let's hear what you think about your Winnipeg Jets first round matchup.
Yeah.
I mean, they play the Calgary Flame, and they've been pretty even in their season this year. They played each other in the Heritage Classic in Saskatchewan, and those are the beautiful jerseys, the old throwback dark blue Jets jerseys that they should wear full time. But that's a different conversation. But I mean, the Jets, like the Rangers, were pretty hot. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and talk about the Winnipeg Jets for that long, but they were pretty hot going into it. So I think they'll be all right.
Yeah, the battle for Alberta, Canada, will be an interesting one. I got to agree with that. But I'm going to switch it up a little bit. I think the Oilers and the Blackhawks. What's up?
The Jets don't play in Alberta.
Yeah, they do.
They play in Manitoba.
Winnipeg.
No, it's the Battle of Alberta right here.
Dude, I'm reading an article. It's in Manitoba.
Well, that's wrong.
Go back to Toronto. I'm from Winnipeg, you idiot.
All right, calm down. Anyway, the Oilers and the Blackhawks. That's my quick one real quick. Just because the Blackhawks have still that star power in Patrick Kane and Jonathan Hayes. You look at their old cup championships from the early 2010s. They have a lot of star power. They're getting younger. They have been a bottom team in this league these last 3 to 4 years. They're finally getting a playoff shot now. So now you match them up with the Oilers and Connor McDavid, the future of the NHL. It's going to be very interesting to see the star power matchup in that series.
Well, this is actually very interesting for me. I'm going to go with whoever the Maple Leafs are matching up, and I can't really tell here from this picture, but
can't tell with the logo.
Oh, it's going to be the Columbus. Okay, they're playing Columbus. All right. Columbus. So
the Columbus.
I do think that obviously the Maple Leafs were my choice to win. Obviously, I would love to see the Rangers win. They are the local team. But I just think that the Maple Leafs, as the 1 seed, I just think they're just going to put in so much work, and they're just going to take care of the Columbus Blue Jackets, bro. It's just going to happen.
I remember back on our New Year's special, me and Pablo picked the Maple Leafs to win the Stanley Cup, and Andrew picked the Islanders. I don't remember who Dan picked.
Who the Islanders playing?
I picked the Bruins. But that was I was always on the Bruins before they were even. I mean, they were still, I think, number 1 seed. But,
that was your real dark horse this year.
Well, that was before they were they started to come out of nowhere and kill everyone. So.
Nowhere. They went from the 3 seed to the 1 seed.
Yeah, but I mean, they didn't have nearly as big as a lead
they weren't as
they do now.
Yeah.
So I picked them before it was mainstream, I guess you could say.
No, I think if either
you picked a good stream before you picked a good team.
I had the Bruins winning it last year in February, and they almost did.
Yeah, if either the Bruins or the Islanders win, I'm going to be very sad.
I don't think the Islanders. I don't know. The Islanders.
As long as it is not a team from Boston, I'm fine.
Well, let's move on to a different sport here. Pablo, you're in the outfield, so let's go to baseball. I don't know if any players will be in the outfield this year, though, because the MLB and the MLBPA can't seem to agree on the money. So tell me, do you think there'll be a baseball season at all this year?
Well, this is honestly a very sad topic for myself. In my heart of hearts, I do believe that there is some type of glimmer of hope that we will see to some type of baseball action this year. But just in the back of my mind, with this offer that was just put on the table, I don't see there being a baseball season at all. I see there being less than a 5% chance, and this is something that's very sad. I mean, bro, the Yankees as a Yankee fan, I was super excited to see the team actually win, man. We just got Garrett Cole. I wanted to see what he was going to do in the Bronx. And even as a Mets fan, I mean, you guys still have a core of players that you were excited to see this year. And there's just so many other teams. The Dodgers, they traded for Mookie Betts. We'll never be able to play with him, maybe. And if you're going to tell Garrett Cole that he just signed a $35 million contract, and with this proposed offer, he would be making, less than $8 million. I mean, I understand the state of the world, and I understand that a lot of these owners can't afford to be paying these players. But when did we start feeling so bad for billionaires? When are we just agreeing with the owners and saying, hey, guys, I want to have a season. Just take the pay cut. You cannot do that. I mean, what are these guys even playing for? If I understand a little bit of a pay cut, but if the pay cut is going to be, almost 80% of their salary that they are supposed to make this year, what is the purpose? A person who's supposed to be making $1 million salary is going to be making in the 400,000s. You cannot live off of that. And as a professional athlete,
I think you can live off of that 400,000.
Look, I understand you can live off of it, but as that's not their expectation. Their living lifestyle has adjusted to being a millionaire.
Yeah.
So
I think everyone just has like this view of 400,000 is so much money for like what like any of us make. But then again, they're just going to be playing for way less than they're actually valued. Like they have $1 million, have a multi-million-dollar talent that they're playing to like get paid 10% of that. Like that's just not right. But I mean, then again, I don't really agree with how Pablo said there's like a 5% chance that there's going to be baseball. I'm still pretty confident there's going to be baseball played this year. It's just too much to lose for them not to just agree on something. It's too much to lose just to disagree over money. This is like they have plenty of time to like work out the financials of this, where this is how negotiations go. Like this original MLB offer to the players is never going to look good to anybody. Like it's going to be like a low ball offer, but they're going to find somewhere in the middle, and there's going to be baseball played this year.
The one thing the MLB is really messed up here is they should have gotten this done as quick as possible so you don't have to compete with basketball and hockey. You have a certain time frame of just baseball and primetime spots on big networks, and they haven't done that. They're losing money because of that, because they could get a lot of money from these TV deals getting done and being shown, and that's not happening. So the longer they wait, the less likely this is to happen, because there's going to be less money to be made. Players are going to have to play less games, and they're going to have to agree to less money, and that's just not what's going to happen. The owners are not going to be in position to really negotiate to the point where they should be deserving of the money. I just don't see that happening. I think this is an opportunity for the owners to make up excuses that the players are being greedy. And a season here, I mean, I thought 2 weeks ago we would be looking at a season starting in the middle of June, but that is extremely unlikely now.
That's not happening. No way.
It's not happening now. In July, I don't see it happening in mid-July at this point. So how long can you play baseball into? Like I understand you want to do it at these home stadiums, but like you look at a place like New York, you can't play baseball in December here. So I understand that the games, like you might have to play 70 games or 60 games at this point, but it's just not going to look good at this point. It might be saving face just not to play a season of baseball, although it will hurt their ratings and it'll hurt the fan base. At this point, it's just looking pretty ugly.
Yeah, I want to talk about the ratings thing that you just brought up, because that was a good point. Because you look at a sport like NASCAR, and NASCAR would never, ever be able to touch other sports, the four major sports rating-wise. NASCAR is pulling in record numbers rating-wise. Their Darlington race, that first Sunday, did better than The Last Dance did. Episodes 9 and 10, the most-watched sports documentary of all time, was behind NASCAR. So that just tells you these baseball games would have been watched. The owners are missing out on having so many eyes on their product. It is just, and the players are not to blame. I know on last week's show, I kind of took toward the middle point of view on kind of going at the players a little bit. But now with this coming out about the players' pay cuts is just disgusting. The amount of money they're asking them to play for. Like Pablo said, a man like Garrett Cole, $35 million to $8 million. $8 million is nothing to bulk at. That's a good number. But when you're
not even $8 million.
Yeah, but when you're supposed to be making $35 million, it's obvious these players are going to have to take some sort of pay cut to play this year. But to ask them for about over 60% of their salary from some of these players, is absolutely just ludicrous. And you can't blame the players for not wanting to play in that situation. And it would hurt both parties too, because the owners, the sport they love, the sport that they are invested in so much, it's gonna take a hit if there's no season this year, and that's obvious. There's no way it's not going to. And the players, they're gonna take a hit as well, because the way that their popularity will never be able to recover in their lifetime, in their playing career. A guy like Mike Trout, a guy who already is one of the best baseball players of all time, and he still can't get any like TV time on ESPN or anything.
And he's going to be losing a year of his, at the end of the day, his career is going to be, but his numbers are great, but what if he had that extra season? And
Exactly.
we are always going to wonder something like that with a guy like Mike Trout.
And then you can compare it to a guy like when Tom Brady tore his ACL and missed a year. These players, when they miss a year, you're missing a year of greatness. And the league was going to be so exciting this year. It really makes me sad as a Mets fan as well, because the Mets had a great team going into this year. And as Pablo said, as a Yankees fan too, I can't stand the Yankees. But we had a real possibility for the first time in a long time of a Subway Series World Series. Both teams were stacked. We had a good possibility for that. Honestly,
I'm trying to ignore that NL side of the argument there.
But I do think that baseball will take a big hit if they can't get their season going, which honestly, I am going to be on a pessimistic side of this. There's no developments that have come out recently that makes me confident that there will be a season. I am very unconfident in that.
I think a lot of what fans are worried about is just how it looks from a fan's perspective. We don't really know what's going on in these negotiations. I think they always look at the same thing with like contract negotiations in the NFL. It always looks like they're never going to get something done, and then just next day they've agreed to something because there's a lot of work that goes on behind the scenes. I think it always looks worse from like media and people leaking misinformation. I think everybody seems a little too pessimistic. Maybe I'm just being way too optimistic, but I've never seen a baseball season canceled. I know these circumstances are way different than what we've ever seen, but like I just can't fathom just there not being a baseball season. I think they'll just get something done.
Well, you look at previous years in different sports, you see lockout years, you see where it takes half a season to even have the league come back. So it is tense. I mean, it's a lot of money we're talking about here. It's not our money. It's a lot of money for these owners. So it's going to take a while for them to agree to something. But like I said before, they should have jumped on the bus real quick. They should. I don't understand why they don't pay them the proportion of the amount of the games that they play. I mean, if they got it going earlier, they could have had 80, 90 games, and you could include playoff teams, like you include the amount of games in a playoff pay that to every single player, obviously, because you don't know they deserve the money. So I don't understand why they can't do proportions. You could have looked at 60 to 70% of their salaries, which I feel like is very fair. I mean, this lowball number that they're getting of 20, 30, 40% of their salaries is disgusting. I mean, how could a player and the Players Association even agree or even look at that and say, okay, that's a good idea? Of course not. Like, that was just a smack in the face to them when the owners gave them that offer. I don't see anything happening very time soon.
Well, Dan, what about like a deferred contract, right? So yeah. I'm going to keep using Garrett Cole because he's making so much money. Let's say Garrett Cole is supposed to be making 35. He makes $8 million. And what if they say, okay, Garrett, we're going to be paying you $8 million this year, but the rest of your money that you are owed for the end of this, for this season, we are going to give it in payments over the length of your contract. I mean, yeah, it sucks because, by the contract, you should be making 35 annually. But if you were going to do something like this, at least the player could be like, you know what, for this season, I could take a little bit of a pay cut if that means I'm still going to get the money. Well, another thing. Okay. Yes, continue.
I just have a question about that. So, like, obviously that can't account for salary cap for additional teams. They have to account all of that deferred money to this year. It can't be on top of the years going into those years of deferred money, because then your salary cap's only going to raise even more. So that would be a problem. They would have to have all that deferred money being counted towards this year, right?
Well, the biggest problem I would have, and obviously the big market teams would be able to take care of this, but a team like Oakland, who is already struggling, they've been in the news for not being able to, or not wanting to pay their minor league players.
And now they can't pay the rent for their stadium either.
Yeah, they can't. A team like this, something like this, where if the contract has to be deferred, they're going to have to, worry about not only this season, but down the road, they're going to have to worry about paying more money on top of the money they already owed some of these guys. And we have seen with Oakland that they are, they're sellers like a lot of years. And most years they're going to be sellers. Now
they made a movie about how cheap this team was, about how poor that the Oakland A's were. So the Oakland A's are poor.
Well, also with that deferred money, Pablo, you have to look at it and say, okay, we have to agree that this is guaranteed money. Like if I play this whole season of the 80 games or whatever, I need that should be guaranteed money down the road. Even if I'm traded or if I'm on a different team, if I retire, like I am owed that money no matter what. I have to be getting that money from that team. So when you look at that, like that's going to be a problem with the organization because I don't see how the owners would agree to that.
Well, let's talk about this as well, because if there's no season this year, the collective bargaining agreement for the MLB and the MLBPA is going to run out over the next couple of years as well. And if these owners and players can't agree now, who knows if they're going to be able to agree in a year from now? There might not be another major league season for a couple years if there's not a season this year, if these players can't come to an agreement. So that's a little scary thought to think about as well, Pablo. Did you think when the last Yankee game you saw might be the last one you see for like 2 to 3 years?
Well, the last Yankee game I saw, I did see Garrett Cole, and I saw Garrett Cole just destroy the Yankees in one of the worst games I had ever been to. And if you would have told me that would have been the last Yankee game I'd ever see in person, I'd say, you know what? Whatever, man. Just I don't
No, you wouldn't.
I don't think that would be your reaction. I think
it wouldn't be my reaction.
Tears.
My reaction would be, you know what? If it's going to be the last game I see in 2 years, let's go out with the win. But I don't want to.
This way, like, what were you saying, Pablo?
No, I'm saying I don't want the Washington Nationals to be the last ever World Series champion.
Let's calm down here.
Okay, all right. Before you go crazy and say the sport's folding. Say the scenario happens where they can't come to an agreement over money and they cancel the 2020 season. They say it's not worth it. So they start next year at a normal time if they can agree to something. So if they don't agree to the collective bargaining agreement, that means they're missing 2 years of revenue. These players are missing 2 years of playing time. I don't think there's a scenario where that happens. I think if there is no 2020 season, it just increases the odds that they come to an agreement next year because they have to. Both sides, they will not go 2 years without playing. That's just destroys all doubt of them not agreeing.
Scott Boras, on one hand, is telling his players, don't take anything less than what you're owed. Take the 100% what you're owed. These owners agreed to pay you this money no matter what. You need to get this money no matter what. So do you think some of these players are going to take that stance, like a Bryce Harper, like who's another Boris guy, Anthony Rendon, somebody like that?
It's not up to them. If the players union agrees to a prorated salary that's ties into how many games they played, they're never going to get that 100. They can pout all they want. They can sit out all they want. They're not getting that 100% if the union agrees to a lesser percent. So they don't individually have the choice of nope, I'm not playing unless I get all my money because it might not be up to them.
Well, yeah, Andrew's right, but you can't blame them for taking that stance. I mean, it's their money. They're contractually owed, whatever, if that's even a word. They're owed that money. That's in their contract. They are owed that money. That is their money, especially if it's guaranteed money. So if it's guaranteed money, I haven't read up about that, but if it's guaranteed money in the contract and they're trying to lower that money, that can't happen. That's why this might be going on even more because you can't take out guaranteed money after you already signed the contract. It's BS.
One last thing from me about this topic is what is making this, the situation look even worse and even bigger than it actually is the fact that players are coming out and, saying these things about the owners, saying that they're being lowballed. That is what's putting more attention and making it seem like we are not going to have a season here. Because if the players continue.
It's two different things because the players are kind of defending themselves because MLB is trying to make the public eye see that, we want baseball back, where we have a plan in place, but we have to just have the players agree to this type of money. Look at this. It's $400,000 or more. That's so much money compared to everybody who's on Twitter complaining about there's no baseball. So baseball, MLB kind of set it up where the ball's in the player's court, and if there's no season, it's the player's fault. So that's how a lot of people are going to view it, whether that's right or wrong.
All right.
And it is wrong, though, because
It is wrong.
The ball is in the player's court, but the court is like the shitty court down the block that nobody wants to play at. This is not a good court. This is the court that nobody wants to play on with the ball that nobody wants. So this needs to be fixed. The court needs to be renovated. The offer needs to be better, and the players will eventually – they want to play. It's not like these guys don't want to play baseball. They want to get paid to play the game they love, but they want to get paid what they deserve to be paid. And I think we can all agree that they are not getting a fair offer right now. On the other hand, the NBA is looking to come back in Disney World. But one person who said he's not going to be coming back if there is no chance for the playoffs is Damian Lillard. He said he's not going to be coming back to play in no meaningless basketball games. I can't say I blame him. What do you guys think about that comment?
Well, yeah, you absolutely can't blame them. What's the point of playing meaningless basketball games, unless you're going to do a regular season where you have 10 to 15 games where they have a chance to get in the playoffs. But, of course, that's not going to happen. That's not what has been talked about. It's not going to happen that way. It's looking at like that 16 to 18-team tournament or 24-team tournament. 16 teams, you look at the Blazers, you look at the Pelicans, the Kings. I mean, those teams are all about 3 games back right now and have been playing really good basketball down the stretch. And now you're just telling me that they have no shot. So that's where it comes into fairness. What are you going to do? I mean, the NBA's and the NHL have been looking at each other. They canceled their seasons within a day. They've been looking at each other to see how's everything working. So maybe the NBA sees this 24-team idea with the NHL and says, hey, this is a good idea. Let's get more teams in, give them more of a chance. You could do like how the NHL is doing pretty much like a play-in round to the actual start of the playoffs. I mean, you can't blame Damian Lillard. Why risk your health? Why risk, your money? Why risk your playing career to play meaningless games? He has a great point, so I don't blame him one bit.
Yeah, I don't see why the NBA just can't model what the NHL proposal is to come back to play. I don't know.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, if you're going to be playing and there's no shot of you even making the playoffs, then why play? I don't like the way he said it. What's the point of playing? I'm not going to play. I don't like the way he said that. But at the end of the day, if you're just going to be playing, just to raise your stats, there's no point because the whole point is to make it into the playoffs and win the championship. So if you are not going to do the same thing that NHL is doing, where they're just going to have a huge tournament to decide a winner, then this does not make any sense as to why a losing team should be even playing.
Usually it's the NBA who acts first and the NHL follows. But this is where the NHL has acted first and the NBA should follow. Because a 24-team playoff, when you're supposed to have an 8-team playoff, that makes a lot more sense than what the NBA is talking about. A lot of NBA experts are really in favor of the 16-team playoff, keeping the bubble a little smaller. But I don't know how you can do that when teams like the Pelicans, teams like the Blazers, teams like the Kings, like Dan said, were right on the outside looking in. With 2 months to go, they had a chance to make the playoffs. Zion was right there. The NBA really can't go wrong with having a bigger playoffs than like the NHL is. They're going to get more stars in the playoffs. Without this, you don't have Damian Lillard in the playoffs, who's been a certified killer the last couple of years in every series. You don't get Zion Williamson in his first ever playoff series, or Lonzo Ball. Possible Lonzo Ball, Zion Williamson against LeBron James. That's money. You don't get the Knicks. The Knicks will have the biggest market in the NBA. Everybody will be tuned in to watch the Knicks lose. You miss out on so many good players in this playoff system that you have an excuse to give these guys a free playoff trip, and you're not going to take it. I just don't get it. And I completely agree with Damian Lillard. I don't care how he said it. I don't care if he went out and said F the NBA. I don't give a damn what they tell me to do. I'm not playing, because he would still be right. It doesn't make any sense for him to come back and play meaningless regular season games. If you want to keep this disease at bay, you don't play more games than you need to. You don't play these you don't bring 30 teams back for this meaningless regular season. If you're going to bring the Knicks back, I hope it's within a 2014 playoff system, not to go out there and lose a couple more games against shit teams. It would be cool to see him in the playoffs. Won't be cool to see him play again for no reason. Yeah, that's what it'll be, for no reason.
Yeah, I don't understand why the NBA doesn't look at this 2014 playoff and see. They should just be seeing money. Like, you're bringing in so many more bigger markets. Like you just said, New York would even be in the playoffs. That's such a huge market. You look at the NBA landscape of having a Pelicans like team in Portland Trail. Like there's so many teams, 24 teams. That's 24 different cities, different places, part of the United States. That's millions and millions of people watching it, more than the playoffs would normally be. And especially in this time where people are starving to watch live sports, and you going right into an NBA playoff and having 24 different teams in it, there's so much money to be made there. I just don't understand why these owners, the NBA itself and the league is not looking at and trying to be more of the purest approach. Why not just bring more teams in and just make it more everything? Like it just baffles my mind that they're not thinking of this as an opportunity.
Exactly. That's what it is. It's an opportunity to get more fans of the product. You're already a growing sport. You're not going to ever pass the NFL, but you're trying to widen your lead on the MLB, who is not even going to play this year probably, and the NHL, who is already doing the right things to get up there. You have the UFC, who has eyes on the product as well. NASCAR, who has eyes on the product. The NBA can really cement themselves like solidly in that number 2 sport in America if they can do this. So I really think that this would be a great idea for them, but I don't get paid to make that decision.
Yeah.
But Damian Lillard's right. No regular season, because it doesn't make any sense to go back to a regular season. You got to go straight to the playoffs if you're going to come back. It's too late. It's too late for the regular season. Let's go to NASCAR. There's a NASCAR race tonight that we can't really talk about the results yet, but we can talk about the results from last Sunday. And Dan, I know we got a question this week about Chase Elliott. So from Dave Stolte, he wants to know, what the hell was Chase Elliott's crew chief thinking, telling him to pit with 2 to go?
Yeah, I mean, Alan Gustafson is a widely respected crew chief, especially with Hendrick Motorsports. Been there for a while now. He's a good mind. But the one rule in NASCAR is clean air over new tires. And when you're in the lead, especially on a racetrack like the Coke 600, there's no reason to go into the pits. I know what he's thinking. I know where Gustafson's thought was. He's thinking that, okay, you have Brad Keselowski. He's obviously going to stay out. Maybe the 3rd car, the 4th car are all going to stay out. And then after that, everyone's going to follow you in because they want to see if they get those new tires and have a chance at the lead. But 8 or 9 cars did not pit, which is – I mean, I didn't expect – I don't think you could fully blame them for that. But, of course, like I just said, you always go with the clean air here. But when you look at that thought process, he started, I think, 11th on that restart, and within 2 laps, he finishes the race 3rd, which is unbelievable. In 2 laps, you're passing that many cars. But the fact that if he just had the clean air, I don't think there's any chance anyone's touching him. I mean, Brad, do you think Brad pits? Like, I personally, you don't know. Maybe he doesn't want to give up that 2nd spot. Maybe he thinks he could beat Elliott off the restart on old tires. Maybe he doesn't think everyone behind him is going to pit. Like I said, clean air over new tires, but I don't know. I understand where his thought process was.
I just think that's a losing move, is pitting anytime you have the lead. You know that no matter what you do, the other cars are going to do the opposite. So you are in a tough position already. But like you said, clean air over fresh tires 10 out of 10 times. Just put me in the front of the field and let me fend for myself. Brad Keselowski drove away from everybody. He was on the oldest tires in the field, I believe, and he drove away from everybody. He stole that win because he did not have the best car by far that night. The Chevrolets have been so fast these last couple of races, and they have nothing to show for it. It's kind of sad that Chase Elliott should have won the last 2 races. Then he has a 3rd place finish and a 38th place finish out of it. So he's my pick. He's not my pick for tonight, but he's going to have a good race. I actually think that William Byron, he's my pick for tonight. I think he gets his first win. This race is going to be weird. You have the pole sitter, and this might be a rain-shortened race, depending on how long it goes. So you want to get out in that clean air, and you want to go. I think if Byron can get out there and lead the laps and perform on pit road, William Byron, and he had a strong run on Sunday's race until he spun out. I think he's going to be a good pick. I think he's a good value pick as a long shot.
Well, the good thing about this race, it's you have the Coke 600, which is actually 600 miles. This is only 400 kilometers, I think. So you're only going 200 laps or so, 208 laps, I believe. So that's 200 less laps than you were last Sunday. So this race is going to be a lot faster. And especially with the rain shortage, you only got to go a certain amount of time where, that might not take that long, So like you said, you want to be up top, in this start. And like you said, Byron, right at the top there. So it's going to be very interesting, especially if the rain comes. I mean, I hope it doesn't because it's just been raining every single race, it seems like, which is ridiculous. I really like, I know Martin Truex. I haven't given up on him. He's been very good. I mean, he's pretty much been the best Toyota we've seen pretty much all this year, which is really weird. The Toyotas aren't performing as like the Chevys are. I mean, minus Jimmy Johnson finishing second and then failing inspection last week. So, I mean, the Toyota gang has to, start doing a lot better here. I don't know if they're going to. I mean, I like Chase Elliott, of course, because he's very good at this racetrack. He's been proving himself these last few weeks that he is pretty much the best driver in the best car, but he just can't get the win. So, I mean, always loving going with Chase as well.
Yeah, I know we'll be watching, but Pablo and Andrew, you guys went quiet. Do you have any renowned interest in NASCAR now that it's back and there's nothing else to watch?
Well, I mean, like, I'm kind of hunting for last place in our NASCAR pool, so like holding out hope for that. I don't even know if they're racing tonight, but keep an eye out for Denny Hamlin and Joey Logano. That's all.
Racing tonight.
Pablo, let's hear a pick for tonight.
I got to go with my guy. I got to go with my pick. I got to go with Big J. That's who's going to win tonight.
Well, who is Big J?
I don't know, but I was hoping you guys would tell me.
Let's give you Jimmy Johnson. Then.
We have Jimmy Johnson.
Jimmy Johnson, right there. That's what I was talking about. Look, guys, here's the truth, right? I've never really seen a NASCAR race. The only one time we were supposed to get together for the Daytona 500. It got canceled. It got rained out. So that was my only chance. If NASCAR wanted to, prove themselves to me, that was their chance. And then the rain, Mother Nature had to go and ruin it. So as of right now, I'm going to go with my guy, Big J Johnson. That's my dude. And pull it off.
Big J. I'll be watching out for Big J.
I think NASCAR should have domes here. Is that what you're trying to say?
That wouldn't be a bad idea.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, those fumes might kill a couple people.
Yeah.
I think one thing you do know about, though, is wrestling. So I want to talk about the AEW Stadium Stampede match. Of course, this match took place at where the Jacksonville Jaguars play. It's always nice when your chairman is part owner of the Jacksonville Jaguars. You'll always have a stadium. So, Pablo, do you think this match was a success?
Well, number one, I want to say thank you to Tony Khan and everybody at All Elite Wrestling for just coming up with this amazing concept of a match. Just the visual of TIAA Field was just beautiful, and I don't even know where to begin. I mean, this match was everything I thought it would be and more times 100. It was just so fun. It was more than just like a street fight. They did things that they were in the ring. But what I loved was the fact that they brought in other storylines. They had a segment in the pool. They had this thing with Matt Hardy, and he kept changing into like different versions of himself while he was in the pool. They had scenes with Hangman Page and, him going to the bar, and then him and Jake Hager having a bar fight. I mean, this is some good stuff, bro. They had the thing with one of the Young Bucks. I'm not sure if it was Matt or Nick, doing a what's that called?
Moonsault?
A moonsault off the field goal. So things like this, bro, you will never see this ever again. You saw things like man, you saw the mascot. You saw the mascot get punched by Chris Jericho. You saw
Judas
a replay. These are things that, if anything came out of this pandemic, especially in wrestling, positive, this is something that is definitely up there. And it was just a great way to close out the show. And, bro, I just loved it, man.
I'm going to be honest with you. I really thought the best thing about wrestling in this pandemic was going to be either the Boneyard match or the Firefly Funhouse match. I thought that was going to be hard to get topped. And then AEW put this match on. And that might be the most fun match I've ever watched in my life. My entire life. I will go that far that match was that fun. I think Dan and Andrew, you guys even would have
Yeah.
loved watching this match. It was
I think
that
you
much
would have.
for the casual wrestling fan, it would have been a good time. There were so many references to football as well. It was cool. Chris Jericho challenged the call. He threw a flag. They went to the replay booth. Jacksonville Jaguars mascot, like Pablo said, got elbowed in the head. It was fantastic to watch. It was really cool. I really enjoyed it was something for everybody too. Like I was saying, I really enjoyed the Matt Hardy pool scene because there was something for casual fans and there was something for hardcore fans too. Because most casual fans don't know Matt Hardy has this crazy ass character where he changes versions of himself all the time. So that was cool seeing that. He was underwater smiling. The camera work was great. I just thought that the match was really well done. And it like I said, it's a perk to have your own stadium. So that worked out great for Tony Khan and AEW. It was cool how the stadium was themed. The end zones were painted for each team. They had football themed entrances. They had jerseys.
That was awesome. That's one thing I want to touch upon, right? I love the fact that the Inner Circle came out and it almost looked like, it almost looked like they were the New York Giants, bro. They came out, they each had their own jersey with the number and like their name. And I love the visual of the Inner Circle and the Elite like kind of running towards each other. And it's almost like the opening kickoff. It was beautiful. I mean, for somebody who's not the hugest football fan as myself, it was awesome, bro. This match was awesome. I loved when I think it was Matt or Nick Jackson. I don't know. It was definitely one of the Jacksons, one of the Young Bucks. In the end zone, he did like a little celebration, and then he got the flag on the play. It was awesome. They were having fun. Aubrey Edwards doing her thing. She's the best referee in all of professional wrestling right now. It was just a great show.
Yeah, one last thing to add to that is that those jerseys need to be on sale. I don't know what they're doing, but that would be a giant money maker, and I think I would have to purchase one of those.
Chris Jericho 27, definitely.
Looking forward in AEW, though, it looks like we're going to get a match between Chris Jericho and Mike Tyson. I don't know if I ever would have thought that would come true. Do you think this is a good idea?
I really don't know if they're really going to have a match per se, because I don't see Mike Tyson getting in the ring, and I don't think AEW I don't think they're going to let him get in the ring, because I just don't think that would be pleasant to watch. But the weird thing about this storyline is they're carrying it over from something that happened 10 years ago in WWE, which is crazy. They're having a storyline brought on from another wrestling promotion. So I do find that a little bit odd and a little bit interesting, and kind of not lazy, but in a way doesn't make sense. Let's say if all you've ever seen is AEW, and now they're talking about something that happened 10 years ago in a promotion you never watched before. So that's something I kind of don't like. And I don't know, they could have gone with it a whole bunch of different ways. Now, what did you think about that TNT title? What do you think about that championship?
Well, about real quick what you said before, I actually think that's kind of refreshing, because they're not saying, hey, you're stupid, you don't know anything like this. Mm-hmm. This didn't happen. They're like, okay, this happened. Let's talk about it. Let's profit from it instead of ignoring it. So I kind of like that. As far as the TNT title goes, it's not the AEW World Championship, I'll tell you that. But when it's finally done, I think that it could end up being a nice looking title. You've seen some fans rendering about it, and that it could look nice with gold plating on the side and stuff. But right now, it was very underwhelming at first glance. And I'm glad that Tony Schiavone mentioned that it was not done, because I think there would have been a riot if he didn't say anything.
Well, number one, the title, it can look as ugly as it is, but Cody Rhodes is only going to elevate the title, and he's going to make the title. The title makes the champion, not the other way around. Or the champion makes the title doesn't make the champion. But the thing that I don't like, number one, is they had a super lazy match to determine the number one contender. I hate battle royale matches. I just hate it. I think they're the most laziest thing ever, aside from even the Royal Rumble. But they're almost having this as like a TV title. So if Cody Rhodes is going to be defending this title every single week, it's going to get old really quick, and it's going to lose a lot of value. So I do not like that. They should have a rating system in place for the title. a number one contender for the AEW championship, number one contender for the TNT title. It should be 1A, 1B. So that's something they really need to improve on.
Well, the match is lazy, of course, but it had the right winner with Marco Stunt coming out on top because his match against MJF was fantastic. But one thing about that I actually like that Cody Rhodes will be defending it weekly because AEW needs to get more viewers on their show. Even though they're beating NXT, they need to keep those viewers there. And this is what I liken it to, was the John Cena U.S. Open Challenge. You go back to that. That's probably the best Raw has been, and I don't even know how long. So if you can get like indie guys in on this, New Japan Pro Wrestling guys in on this for one-off matches, you can get some really memorable matches in there. But it has to be done right, like you said, or else it could go really south really quick. I wanted to kind of cross this over with the UFC real quick because Dan, your boy Triple C, Henry Cejudo was there.
Yeah.
What would you think? Do you think he has a career in pro wrestling?
Yeah, he retires, and then the first thing we see him in public is in a different ring. We see him in the WWE World ring. I just didn't understand that. I mean, I didn't see that one coming, but I think he has a chance to become a good wrestler. I mean, obviously he's an Olympic gold medalist wrestler. He has the UFC experience, but he has the microphone. He is annoying. A lot of people hate him, which I think he would be doing really well in the WWE or in AEW, wherever he is. I think he would flourish in that role if he were to want to get into that side. Because let's look at it from this perspective. He's done with getting punched in the mouth. He's done with all the bruising, the pain that comes with the UFC. You go to the WWE, AEW, wherever he's going, that's a good idea. I think he would fit right in with them.
He's been training with Mike Tyson and Vitor Belfort as well. It's been with him. So, yeah, they were both on AEW. I think you can have a lot of potential here for a possible rivalry. If you get a big pay-per-view match, Mike Tyson, Cejudo, and Vitor Belfort against Chris Jericho and two other members of the Inner Circle, that could be a great match and get some eyes to the product. And that's what AEW needs right now.
Well, they would have to make the AEW guys win, I feel like. There's no chance that you could let UFC guys come in and just beat you, right?
That's the thing. I don't think it would just be straight UFC guys and Mike Tyson versus the Inner Circle. It would have to be a mixture of UFC guys, Mike Tyson, and some type of AEW talent, because it's not realistic. Fighters are going to, beat wrestlers, but at the end of the day, this is the profession that the wrestlers are in. So they're not going to be they're not going to be beaten by somebody who's, they're not in their own background. But I did love the ending to Dynamite this past Wednesday. I thought that it was really refreshing. I thought it was kind of awesome. And to me, I don't know how you felt, Steve. The ending almost felt like kind of rough, kind of real. And I felt like there were some real shoves going on in there. And Mike Tyson, bro, this guy is still jacked. If he ripped off his shirt and started doing those gyrations in front of me, I'd be scared.
The thing about AEW I like a lot is that most of the stuff comes off as real. It's not phony. It's not overproduced like WWE even this week tried to copy AEW's crowd. AEW's crowd didn't even sound right for the first hour or so because it sounded like they had a big sign in the arena that said applause, honestly.
Applause.
That's what it was like. But it was very overproduced. WWE can't help themselves. AEW just comes off as more real and more fun. And that's why the brawl, it was sloppy. It worked, though, because these guys are UFC guys. It's like this is what it would look like if they were on the street brawling, not in a WWE-style brawl. So I liked that. Mike Tyson, I'll tell you what, I think he was drunk in that brawl. The way he was acting,
you saw his face. You saw his face.
I think he had a couple drinks before that segment. I'm going to be honest. But I think during a match, it might be a little better. But I don't know what faces Mike Tyson was making. He looked like he was at a light-skinned photo shoot the way he was acting during that segment. But it was good, though. It felt real. So that's all you can really ask for in wrestling is for things to feel real.
Funny.
Or one final question was from Bobby Krepik. It has to do with AEW. I'll let Pablo answer it. Bobby Krepik says, where does Lance Archer go from here?
Well, Bobby Krepik, thank you so much for your question. And you know what? I saw that question on Before the Score's Instagram, and I just knew you were the one to ask it. Number one, Lance Archer, contrary to a lot of people's beliefs, was not buried. And matter of fact, Cody Rhodes actually put him over they had this whole storyline centered around what he and Jake the Snake Roberts did to his wife. So he still looks like a monster. And the way that he lost was by kind of, I wouldn't say he lost clean. I don't know. I don't want to get into that right now. But he didn't exactly lose clean. He lost because of a lot of things were going on. But I really don't know where they go right now. He could still go on a dominant run. And who knows, man? Maybe somewhere down the road, he has a feud with Brody Lee. Brian Cage just debuted, and I do not think he's going to beat Moxley for the title, obviously. So I do think that could be a monster matchup going forward between a Brian Cage and a Lance Archer. Those are two big men, and I really don't see what they could do with this guy. Maybe in a few weeks he challenges Cody Rhodes and he beats him for that title. So I don't really know. He is not buried. He is, surrounded by a guy in Jake the Snake Roberts who is highly regarded in this business. So I think he will be fine. Bobby, just relax. He is not buried. And they just couldn't give him the title because Cody Rhodes has to win something. And who better to elevate a brand new title than your top star in the company?
I don't think I can even add anything to that. You said it was perfect. And I agree. It wasn't buried. Cody was the right choice to go over. But Archer is still going to be a big-time player for AEW. Last thing I want to touch on before we end this episode, Conor McGregor seemingly accepted a fight with Anderson Silva, which honestly, for me, if this comes to fruition, might be a little bit of a disappointment for all the possible people McGregor could have fought. Dan, do you think this fight has any chance of taking place?
No, Dana White will not make this fight. It makes no sense. You have an Anderson Silva who is way past his prime. We're talking 5 years past his prime, pretty much. There's no sense in fighting a prime Conor McGregor when you could match him up against Nate Diaz. You could match him up against Tony Ferguson, Justin Gaethje, winner of Justin Gaethje and Khabib. There's no sense in having Conor take that fight. It's a stupid fight. It doesn't make any sense having it at 177.3 pounds. That doesn't make any sense. Conor barely, he's 168 at his weigh-ins for welterweight. There's no reason to have him. He wouldn't even be 177. He wouldn't even weigh that much. It's a stupid fight to make. I don't see any chance of this fight happening.
There you have it. I agree with that completely. I think that you're right. It makes no sense to have this fight. McGregor should be fighting a guy like you said, Gaethje, Ferguson, Khabib, Usman, Masvidal, Diaz. There's so many better options. If he fights Anderson Silva, I don't even know what to say. That would be a rough go of it for the UFC. But that's all we got for episode 25 of Before the Score. We exhausted all of our topics. Thank you for watching episode 25. Remember to follow Villain Media, Mock Gaming, Matt the Sniper, and follow us on all social media platforms because we'll be posting all week. Episode 25. Thanks for joining us.